Greetings, brave adventurers. Welcome back to RPG Day 2022, day 16. I think I'll get these days right by now, wouldn't you? Today's topic is, what would be your perfect game? Now, I'm assuming that this is meaning an actual game system, not opposed to like a campaign, but I might touch on that as well. If I had to say a perfect system for me, it would be something along the lines of Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder as a fantasy game using a level-based mechanic. Simple enough system, but with room to specialise and what's the word? My brain's stopped working now. Room to specialise and with enough means, say abilities, that you can customise how your character plays out. A little bit like Pathfinder does with its feats and things like that, but maybe not so overwhelming. Combination of Pathfinder First Edition and maybe something like Second Edition AD&D would be perfect. Something that balances out at higher levels as well as it does at lower levels. Fantasy has always been my favourite genre for a role-playing game, and D&D to me has always and will always be the gateway that most people get into. It's a simple enough system, it's fun. A lot of role-playing games are just as good, just as fun, but they lack a little something, especially fantasy games, I don't know, there's a reason D&D is a game that people stick to for years, nay decades, for gaming. A lot of role-playing games, fantasy ones I've played, are something that you'll do every so often. You'll drag out of a cupboard every so often, but it's not something that you would play week in, week out for the next 10, 20 years. If we're talking what sort of game, as in campaign, what sort of thing there, again, it would still be using a fantasy system. It would be a campaign and setting that is, I would say, a little bit closer to maybe a Tolkien-esque than normal Dungeons and Dragons role-playing is. Campaign settings are. I find generally a fantasy game like D&D is a little too maybe magic heavy, a little too fantastical at times. I know that sounds a bit strange. Something a little bit more high adventure, with the sort of magic and power level that you have in a game like D&D, but in a believable setting, which is often something I find that fantasy role-playing games, especially D&D and Pathfinder campaigns, generally don't have. The worlds don't really feel like they mesh very well. So take that sort of game system, take that sort of campaign setting, and a campaign that flows with, that's a little bit, there's a kind of a mixture of sandbox as well as railroad. You've got a story that runs from A to B to C to D and so on, but there is enough wiggle room around that that players can do what they want to do in the meantime. I'm not sure if that was the answer that people were looking for here, but that's what I sort of come up with that particular question. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, found it interesting, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing your comments and your videos. Until next time, good gaming.